CSS Box Model. So this is how the CSS Box Model looks like. You have the content, and every single content has width and height for it, and around this content you have some paddings, then you have the border, and then you have the margins. So let's learn by doing. I created an index.html file containing a div element in the body tag. In this div I gave it just like the class square, and if we take a look on the style, I just give it a fixed width and height. Both of them are 200 pixels, and I added a background color to it. So as you see, if I add padding now, what happens is the square is getting bigger. So let me keep the padding on 0. Let me try to add some margin, 10 pixels. As you see, it's moving around. It's not getting bigger, but it just like moved around a bit. So let me increase it a bit so you can see what's happening. As you see, it's moving around. So margin is the distance between this element that we have and the other elements around. So that means the distance from this point here to here is 100 pixels. The same is from the top. This is the margin. Then you have the border for sure. So let's add some border to our square. I will give it 2 pixels and keep it solid. So solid is the type of this border. It could be dotted, splitted, and solid. And then I will give it like some tomato color. Let me increase it a bit so you can see it. So as you see, guys, we have now a square, green square, and having a red border. Let me one more time add the padding so you can see what's happening. It's increasing. Now, I didn't change the content width and height yet. So to do that, let me add something inside the square. So I will start by adding code with chat, some text there. And let it be a paragraph. If we check, the paragraph has some width now, some width and height. So let's manipulate it a bit and give it the width of 100 pixels, which is the half of the square, and then height 100 pixels, which is also the half of the square. Let's give even this paragraph a background color just to see what's happening. A background color yellow. So as you see, what's happening is that this here is the content. We gave it the width 100 pixels and height 100 pixels, and then around this one we have some padding. The padding is 20 pixels. So what if I remove the padding? You see there is no distance at all between the border and this content, this yellow square, because the padding is 0. So if we add the padding one more time, we'll see there is some distance now. So by that, we covered the height and the width of the content itself, which is in our case the paragraph that we have here. The second thing is we changed the padding and the margin, and we added some borders. So here is a trick now that I want you to keep in mind since you are gonna use it in the future, which is the automatic height. So let's assign the height for automatic. Then you will see that automatically the height here is the same height of the content, which is amazing, man. But there's something weird happening. Look at it. Like as you see here, the padding from the top and the left, they don't look equal. Although the padding here is assigned for 10 pixels. So 10 pixels is the padding, although it's not equal here, man, and you can't tell that's more than 10 pixels. So there is a problem here. Here's what's happening. The paragraph tag by default has some margins, and that's a problem. So let me show you what I mean. Let's assign the margin of the paragraph to 0, and look what happens. Now you can tell obviously that the padding is equal. That's what we want. But isn't it too much that every single element, I mean, there are different elements, a lot of elements that have already some default paddings or default margins. So we don't want to neutralize this margin and padding every single time before we use an element. So to solve this, we want to grab all the elements and set the paddings and the margins of these elements to 0. To do that, we are going to use the asterisk selector. As you see, the asterisk selector is this guy here, and it allows us basically to select all items in HTML file. So let's check, what do I mean? I want you to look here. So we select all the elements using the asterisk selector. Then we set the margin to 0, the padding to 0, and let's set the box sizing to border box. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Basically, if we check the CSS one more time, you will see that if I add some padding here, let me just zoom out a bit. So if I add some padding here, let's add 30 pixels, you'll see that even the square is getting bigger. So it's not just about padding, the square is getting bigger, and that's a problem. What we want to do is, when we set the box sizing to border box, I will show you what happens exactly. So box sizing, border box. So as you see, the square doesn't get bigger, although the padding is still 30 pixels. So that means this box sizing border box allows us to keep this width fixed. So this width and height is assigned to the whole thing, not just for the content. That's a great thing. So now let's use the asterisk selector. So we grab all the elements, and then we need to be sure that the box sizing is border box and that the margin and the padding are assigned to 0. That means if we don't assign the padding or the margin, for example, for the paragraph, we'll still see that the padding of this here is still equal. Like this content here has margin 0. So to ensure what I'm saying, let's just hide this line, and you will see, keep your focus on the padding from here to here. Keep your focus on it, and all I will do is change this margin, hide it, and you will see that, oh, they are not equal anymore. That's what I mean. When we set it to the default, which is when we neutralize every single margin and every single padding for all the elements, now the paragraph element is automatically set for margin 0, so we don't have any problems building. That's a magical trick that will help you a lot. And back to the example here, all what we are trying to do is to just remove remove these automatic paddings and margins. Now this example is not the best example, but it's me in the ice bath. It was cold, man. And now we know exactly why to use the border box as box sizing and why to use the asterisk selector. Wait, stop. Be sure to like the video so you get more content like this. Subscribe so you can see more of these videos and better up to be from the one-person developers. See ya.